Municipalities across the country face a structural reckoning regarding Indigenous relations. For decades, the default administrative setting has been bureaucratic and rigid. We see this tension clearly at Toronto City Hall. There is a massive operational gap between reciting a symbolic land acknowledgement at the start of a session and implementing tangible, structural action for Indigenous youth. The standard municipal playbook relies on passive consultation, asking communities for feedback on policies that administrators have already written. Equity requires moving towards sovereign co-creation, where the community leads the design from the start. Enter Jason Carter, also known by his spirit name, Bear Standing Tall. A Naya member of the Onion Lake Cree Nation, his mandate is to co-create the city's new Indigenous-led early years and childcare service plan. This co-creation process fulfills a fundamental sovereign right, strictly aligning with the city's 2025 to 2030 strategic priorities. True policy equity requires moving beyond symbolic civic gestures and into structurally sovereign frameworks designed by the community. Architecting a modern Indigenous-led public policy framework requires a highly specific dual-track expertise. On one side, it demands deep social work roots and a commitment to holistic practice. This means understanding the cultural continuity required to provide community-level care for real families, like those described in the city's early years vignettes. On the other side, it requires high-level technical capacity. This includes artificial intelligence development, robust business acumen, and advanced analytical ability to identify structural service gaps across municipal wards. Carter's proposal synthesizes these two distinct halves into a single cohesive administrative engine. A functional Indigenous public service plan cannot sacrifice technical rigor for cultural representation, nor can it sacrifice cultural depth for administrative efficiency. Both are required to build a system that works. Municipal planning often wrestles with a geographic paradox. How do you create authentic policy for urban Indigenous families while maintaining active cultural continuity with their traditional home territories? To solve this, Carter executed an intentional act of policy accountability by physically relocating back to the Onion Lake Cree Nation in Treaty 6 territory. This map illustrates the hybrid policy bridge. By operating from the heart of the community, the policy frameworks built for Toronto are rooted directly in the active cultural environments of the home territories. This is achieved through a hybrid engagement model. It enables continuous, real-time liaison between the territory, Toronto Children's Services staff, and the Aboriginal Advisory Planning Committee. Operating remotely ensures that the work scales based strictly on community-identified needs, rather than adapting to municipal convenience. Moving away from City Hall does not reduce capacity. The physical distance actively enhances the policy's perspective, ensuring urban policies are dictated by the core of the community. Relocating to the territory provides a structural guarantee of authentic, sovereign policy development. With the policy origin secured, we have to look at its programmatic core, the daily curriculum executed inside early years childcare centers. The Aboriginal Advisory Planning Committee mandate explicitly calls for the revitalization of Indigenous languages and enhanced cultural safety for children. The standard administrative failure in municipal government is treating Indigenous culture as a supplementary module, an elective bolted onto an existing Western framework. This diagram shows the proposed architectural solution. By embedding traditional ways of knowing directly into the foundational quality frameworks, the curriculum shifts from the ground up. Language revitalization and cultural imperatives are baked into the operational DNA of the system, making them structural requirements. Within this embedded model, maintaining cultural safety is no longer left to a single designated staff member. It becomes a shared, systemic responsibility across the entire center. Authentic Indigenous early years policy requires cultural components to serve as the structural, load-bearing foundation of the entire system. Even a strong foundation faces a critical blind spot in the current 0 to 12 childcare continuum, the fragmentation that occurs during the middle years between ages 6 and 12. This chart shows the data anomaly. There is a sharp decline in school-age childcare spaces the exact moment a child turns 6. This structural fragmentation severs the cultural continuity of urban Indigenous youth, entering a digital school world without consistent community support. To counteract this drop-off, the service plan proposes a highly targeted programmatic intervention. The solution is deploying intergenerational, land-based programming. By bringing elders and youth together directly on the land, knowledge transfers between generations. This approach ensures that children remain deeply connected to their ceremonial families long after they outgrow traditional early years centers. Without this targeted middle years programming, the cultural gains achieved in early childhood are structurally abandoned by the system. Moving past age-based retention, the framework also mandates strict intersectional inclusivity within all Indigenous-led early year spaces. This is guided by the REDIA framework. REDIA stands for Reconciliation, Equity, Diversity, Inclusion, and Accessibility, and it serves as the core metric for all program design. At the center of this inclusion mandate is the requirement to specifically center two-spirit kin within these municipal programs. The policy ensures that early year centers act as safe, affirming havens for two-spirit children and their families navigating urban settings. To be culturally accurate, these spaces must actively celebrate both the masculine and feminine spirits of the youth. This intersectional safety connects directly back to the foundational principle of holistic practice, ensuring absolutely no child is left outside the circle of care. A sovereign system is functionally broken if it replicates colonial exclusions. True equity requires intersectional safety by design. The final architectural layer of the proposal is technical capacity and data equity. There is an inherent tension here. Equitable municipal planning requires high-level data analytics, but Indigenous communities have historically been harmed by external data extraction and surveillance. The solution relies on a strict governing protocol known as OCAP. OCAP stands for Ownership, Control, Access, and Possession, ensuring communities maintain full authority over their own data. Carter leverages his AI background to architect a data pipeline satisfying municipal needs while strictly adhering to the OCAP protocol. Advanced external AI scans the secure hub to identify equity gaps, while raw data remains under the community's sovereign control. Structural sovereignty extends beyond physical spaces into the digital realm. Whoever controls the data architecture controls the policy. Evaluating the full scope reveals the complete, multi-layered architecture of the newly proposed Indigenous-led service plan. It integrates sovereign co-creation, a structurally embedded cultural curriculum, critical middle years retention, and OCAP-compliant data systems. This plan provides the exact operational mechanism required to translate declarative civic statements into accountable, measurable outcomes. Executing this system now requires trust-based relationships and a long-term municipal commitment to the hybrid remote model that makes it possible. Reconciliation is a rigorously designed operational engine that ensures every Indigenous child can thrive within the city.